Hey, I'm Scottie and thanks for joining me for this urban sketching tutorial. I'm going to break down this complex restaurant scene from Paris into some really easy steps so you can follow along with me. So first we're going to talk a little bit about the perspective and how do we measure this to fit on the page. And down the bottom we have some very small people that we've got in the scene. And as always, you can download the reference in the template with the full tutorial on my Patreon if you're interested. So step number one is to add a little bit of a frame around this sketch. So this is a postcard size, but I still want to not go too close to the edge. So what I'm going to do is put a border around this one, across there. And it doesn't matter if it has a wobble to it, right up to the top. Now we know we want everything fitting inside this border. How do we make sure that the building won't go up above or too low so we can't draw the people? Well, with dots. So I'm going to put a dot at the top in the middle, just there, just a bit below the top, and then a dot somewhere down here. Now halfway between those two dots, let's put a dot right in the middle there. So I'm looking at each section, that's about half there. So now we have 3 dots on the page. So now with those 3 dots, we know where the height of the building is and we can draw it around from there. So first we're going to talk a little bit about the perspective. So because of the camera lens on this photo, this building actually has a little bit of 3-point perspective. When we're sketching, we're really just concentrating on their 2-point perspective, but added that 3rd point of perspective, which means that you can see that the building is slightly tilted up. So that means the lens of the camera or where the person's standing is creating that effect. It also makes the building look a lot more dramatic having that angle. So keep that in mind, that there is a 3rd point of perspective going up into the air, but we concentrate most of the details are going to be going to those 2 points on the side here. Okay, so what we're going to do first is just start up the top here, and you can see that line just at the top of the building there has a slight angle. So let's add 2 dots either side of this middle dot, one a bit higher up there and one a bit lower, and we'll give it that angle. Okay, so we've got a bit of an angle there, and let's join that up. Just loosely, hold your pen loosely, it doesn't matter if the line isn't completely straight. Now we're going to draw that line so it has a nice angle there. From the middle to that dot, so go down about 1/3 of that gap and across to the side, and don't go right to the edge. We can see that there's a little bit of a gap there where the building is. We want to add the angle of the building in there. So that's about there, 1/3 down and a little bit out, and let's join that up. Just a simple line. Now on this side we do a similar thing, but because this angle is going right into the distance there, it's a very steep angle. Between those 2 points, let's go up 1/3 from the bottom and go across, and then once again we'll leave a little bit of gap, bit more than this one. So we've got a bit more space on this side, so got a dot there. So this is a lot steeper than this one. Okay, but before you actually join those up, what we're going to do is draw in the trees. This is set up where the building is, the top of the building, but we need to just draw an outline of that tree there because that's in the foreground. So next step is to draw the foreground objects. Now outline that tree, so hold your pen extra loosely and let your pen just randomly draw some leaves. You can follow the general outline if you want to, like something like that. And then we also have another one on this side, up a little bit, and then it comes down like this. And that's about halfway between those dots over this side. Okay, and there's one more item that we're going to draw that's in the foreground, and that's that light pole there. Let's draw this. And it doesn't matter if this isn't perfectly in the right spot or anything, it's just a nice detail that gets lost later, I think. So we'll just make it come down to there. You can add a little sign on the side very loosely. And there we go, we've got all the foreground objects. Now the next step is to add the building. We'll cut behind those trees there. So I'll just link that line up. So I'm looking at that top line, going up, very aware of that top what we want to go to. There we go. Now on this side, this building here, because that 3-point perspective, if it was 2-point perspective, you'd have them go exactly vertical. All these lines would be vertical. But because it's a slight 3-point perspective, all we have to do is just add an angle to those side walls. So let's, about halfway where that dot is there, put a dot on the side, just a little subtle dot, and join those up, and that gives us a bit of that angle. Okay, just like that. And then we want a bit of an angle on this side too. So what we'll do is go up a little bit here, and then across to the side, and put a dot there. So let's join these 2 lines up. Okay, so you can have a little bit of a practice like this, and then keep that line in your sight, your peripheral vision, and there we go. Now we'll go down the building and draw the next biggest shapes. So if we go down to halfway, that's about where that bottom railing is from the building, and we can add that same width down here. So if you go down where that dot is, but then we have to go a little bit wider because of the 3-point perspective, so it should have an angle. So we're going directly below, about that same distance out, but then a little bit wider. So it'll be like that. Okay, and once again, we can join those up. So I'm looking up at the top, and then we have this dot. You can practice a little bit, and then keep it in your peripheral vision there. And the same with these lines here. This is quite angled. So if you take this angle down and then bring it up, it should be just a little bit less angled because it's closer to the eye line. So you can put a little dot there and join those up. We can put a rough line there with a pencil if that'll help. Put that eye line in. That line comes down to about there, and that line comes to there. So these 2 points meet on that eye line. Now with this bottom section, we're going to work on this area here. It's a really important part, fitting the people in. So between the halfway point we put there and that bottom section, let's break that up into 4 sections. So if I go to halfway, it's about there. And then within those 2 sections, break that up into half. So there. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. On this first section up here, let's add a line, and it should be a little bit wider than this line here. So I'm going to put a dot here that just outside that point, but level with this point, a dot here, and a dot here. And then, so let's draw a line like this. This is the bottom of that sign. Let's draw a line like this. And that line will also hit that vanishing point as we go down the side of the building. So aiming towards that vanishing point on that line, and go like this, and okay, you can see they get closer as they get to that point there. And on this side, we're just following this line pretty much. Find that. Okay, now at this point here, where the next line is, let's draw a line right across. This is going to be the bottom. This is going to be the edge of that awning. It goes across, and across, and it goes straight up into that corner there. So now you've got that awning shape there. Okay, and now from that, let's go down and add the thickness, the bit that hangs down. Okay, it's starting to get more tricky down here. There's a few more awnings behind here, so you can fit a few more in there. Even just use a messy kind of one line. And then on this side, we've also got an awning that drops down, just like this. When we're doing very, very small people, we're just doing the silhouettes, and it's easier if you break it down into those 3 sections: the head, the torso, and the legs. So let's draw a very small head, just like this, just a little shape like that. It's sort of rectangular. And then we draw the body, the torso. It comes down a bit like this. And then we draw the legs. Make sure they have a nice little taper down towards sort of more of a pointy. So we have a little person back there to give the scale of where he is. Now, if we're drawing this lady here walking, her head up here like this, so just draw the outline of her head, keep it very simple. There we go, the hair and a bit of the face on the side, just simple like that. We want her feet to come to about there. Just draw the torso like this, bit of a bend, so don't go exactly straight down, like this. And then we come a bit of a bend back, her leg comes out like, and this leg comes in there, and have like this. See, it comes to a little bit of a point. I'm ignoring her flare pants. And then the bag, we can draw that. See, it's just very impressionistic. Now we look at the other people. They're all about her shoulder height. So there's a man here. He comes to about her knees. So you can see that's about half the size of the lady. So I'm drawing that man there first. And see, his head is a bit angled, so got to catch those angles slightly. And his shoulders, one goes up, one goes down, and one goes up. And then exaggerating those angles a bit. That's his torso there. And then the legs are about the same height. They come in like this. Just sort of trying to get those shapes, his legs. Then we have another lady here. Just going to guess what her head looks like. Just a little shape like that. It comes down here, and then coming out for the legs and back in. Very simple shapes. It's much easier to add the arm in a bit after the body with these. Okay, so the next person. So they're about the same height. There's 2 of them, but they're a little bit closer, so slightly bigger. Okay, one person here, the head, and then the shoulders coming down. So again, I'm just looking at the silhouette, and then the bottom half of the body here, just like that, and then they have 2 legs. One goes like this, just tapering to that point, and then this, like that. And then you can add some little shadow there for the foot. Okay, now all these dudes over here relaxing and chilling, their actual heads are about the same, but their body goes down a lot further, so maybe down to where that dot is. Okay, so let's outline the head. So got one head like this, and then the other one comes off him, and he's also looking like that, and his arm comes down here. I'm just drawing the whole body, ignoring the chair. Okay, you can see that round back, and then the legs come up, and this pole here is not helping us, but I'm sure we'll get away with it once we've done the rest of it. And now of course we need the chairs. Adding that shape, then the legs, that's the head and the body, and divide that up, and we have another person. Very simple outline. Now those signs, they look huge compared to the people. So how about I put them across like this, and like make that triangle on this side, and right down the middle, and then the legs. Whew. Okay, there are all the people, making this scene look very busy. Now the line on the bottom of the building here, we can move to that one. We've got the very flat line here of the eye line. Now this line would just be slightly tilted back up. So I just want to show that. You can add some more details here. That's the side of the building. And from this point here, we can go behind all the people. And then we've got a straight-ish line there for the front where the door would be. Let's put in that door now. So that would be right between those two groups of figures. And we go up. And everybody's sketch is going to be slightly different here. Every time I do this sketch, it would be slightly different, because that's what observational sketching is. You're just estimating and looking what you see, and you're not measuring exactly what you do in an architectural sketch. There's these nice lines that go on the top of the awning. So I'll get one right close to that one, and then as they come away, they're a little bit further apart. Okay, the first detail we're going to do is move up from that sign where the words are there. And we'll do those with the Posca pen later. Let's go into the greenery that's around the side here. So I'm just holding loosely, looking up at the reference for some inspiration, but really just making this up. Random lines like that. Now we want to look at this section up here. And there are actually 4 sections. So between here and this point, the top point, and here just above that greenery section, let's put a mark about halfway. Then halfway between those 2 points, there's a point there, and then halfway between these 2 upper points, we put, okay, now we've divided that into 4 sections. Let's divide those lines up. So we do one line here, and they're all just at that subtle angle, and one line there like that. So now we want to draw the lines on the side, so extend those lines down. We need to know the angle, and it's pretty much the same proportion. If you divide that up halfway, okay, you've got those 4 dots. So you could do that as well, and then you just join those lines up. On this side it's a little bit easier, but let's just do the same thing. Divide there, there, and there, and then we can just make sure that they have the same angle, and they'll get slightly more angled as they go up. So aiming at that point there, and then where's that one there, there, and that one there. And now we have divided that whole upper space into these 4 sections for the windows. We can here now draw this railing, so we just draw a railing bar there and across this section here. We're breaking these things down to smaller details. We're doing the railings here, make sure they're tighter over here, closer together, and then as they come to the front, we'll make them further apart, and then they stay and slowly get closer to the side here, but not go. Gives the illusion that it's going down this way. And then right at the top, we've also got a line for that railing that goes up here. So I might start here, about there, and come down this way, and then come down this way, put a dot halfway there, and practice. Once again, tight, get close to each other like this. And then they get a bit further apart, slightly closer. Okay, next is those important windows down the front of the building. So we want that top of that edge of that window to follow this line here. So let's draw the width out of that angle, and then pretty much straight down. Inner edge is seen on one side. So here we can see that left hand edge, but then on this face we'll see the right hand edge. And the width, and then I recommend with these windows, if you draw them each individually, they can all be a bit wonky. So one way to quickly do it is to draw lots of vertical lines to divide up each of the face, So I could do 2 here like this. That's 1 window, 2 window, 3rd window, and then you copy them down. 1, 1. You could even go like this. I'm trying to keep that gap the same. And now you can just follow these lines across. So I'm just going to add lots of vertical lines running down here, getting closer and closer as I go away. Connecting lines at the top. Now let's just do a bit at the top here. We can see that has a nice edge on the top of the building. So add a second line like this. And then, it doesn't matter if you poke outside the page a little bit with this end detail. You can go up like that. You can go outside the page. Some like a skylight in the top there. And then the chimneys. And like this, add those in there. And then we have a detail here. Now follow these same lines, the angle of the lines, the vertical perspective like that. And then this one would follow this line. It's all the little angles need to follow those general 3. I think I'm happy with that. So we're going to start the watercolor with my round 12. So use your bigger brush here to do some broader strokes for these first layers. And for the building, for the top half of the building, we'll try and do this whole section first with that nice yellow ochre color. And up here you can see the light hitting here off that building. So we'll try and leave a little bit of white there and make it very light, coming down to a darker, more burnt sienna earthy color. Got some water in there, and then I'm going yellow ochre first, just there like that. You can hardly see it, I can hardly see it, but it will darken, come across. And then that burnt sienna, add a bit of that in, a bit of burnt sienna there, and making that go in, just mostly in this corner down here. You can even dab little bits around, just to add a bit of interest. Now let's do the sky. So up here where I've got my blues, I've got cerulean blue. We're just laying it down in nice broad strokes there. Going to overlap some points where we've also got probably a bit of sky in here. Now these trees, this is Viridian Hue. They start at the top and you're just slapping it on again. I'm trying not to go into the other colors too much like that, so that helps with that. And as we're coming down, I've got actually turquoise. I'll just add a bit in there because I forgot. Okay, now we're going to do the red. Leave that gap there, so we've got a bit of a buffer between the two zones, and we've got cadmium red. So what I'm doing is adding cadmium yellow, that, and then we mix it in. Make sure we're getting a bit more red in there, and we can add more red as we go across, and bring that across. Nice red, stronger red. Still can see the line work. Now I'll skip down to my next section, so I'm not touching any of that. And let's draw the ground here, and this will be like a grey blue. And I like Payne's grey with a bit of ultramarine in it of colour there. And I'll just add a nice line like that. Trying to bring the piece together with a bit of direction and vibrancy. I'm thinking this area here is a little bit more dry, so I can probably add in the background here. I was thinking if I could put in some ultramarine around the people, a little bit of rose. And I'm making a little white line there, trying to keep space around my objects. Cadmium yellow. We can usually see where that middle is there, there's that light coming down. We can add some yellow into there. There's a light on inside. More of a cool yellow, the lemon yellow. And then little dots. I'm going to test that. Now the bar for the sign there. So that is Payne's grey and ultramarine, but mostly Payne's grey. So we're going to do the sign, this black sign on the side. Then the plants. So we have the Viridian Hue, and we can just lightly, and then this is mostly dry now, so you can go up and add in some details into these leaves here. Okay, just up on the roof, we're getting into a few more little details. Just on this side, I'm just adding some burnt sienna from there. On those little windmills, chimneys. Payne's grey ultramarine mix, and on the... Okay, and now we're doing the faces of the people. So that just means we just get some burnt sienna again like this on a thinner brush, and just put those on that. And if you've got legs, skin, face there, face there. Now turquoise is really nice for clothing, I found. And let's go around just the figures and add your nice bright colours. Add a pink, oh dear, ultramarine. This is up to you, you guys can do whatever colour you think suits. Some more Payne's grey, Rebel, she's not going the same colour as a reference. That looks nice and colourful and vibrant down there now. Now we're going to move up to the top of the building, and we've got these windows. And because the windows will be slightly reflecting the sky, I've got more ultramarine with a little bit of Payne's grey. This is sort of very navy colour. And there we go. I'm just using the side, doing these windows. Okay, so with this reference, the light's coming from this side. This side of the building is going to be in shadow, and also under here, underneath the lights, we're going to have a bit of shadow. So I start with Purple Lake. We go down this side of the building, around there. Coming around the people, I have to be careful because I'm using my bigger brush. Across here like that. You can also add little bits like underneath the tree, a shadow where that light goes. The light hits this side, but this side will have a bit of shadow. And then underneath all your people, just put a little, that will ground them a little bit. And here on this side, on the left side, it's a bit darker. I'm going to pop in more of a purple. So on the right hand sides of these, that's where the light's going. Very subtle lines can go across. And then with these bigger sections now, we can use splatter. So you can dry your brush, then get a bit of the saturated paint there, just on the end of your brush. And then, so I'm getting cadmium red again. One nice big stroke, even if it's outside the lines. And I've got burnt sienna. Just in some of the areas, we just need to make it a bit more, like the little bit of more orange color. Like so, we're going to make the inside some of these window frames like this, underneath some of these, or along these rails, splatters across here. Okay, I have my Posca pen, PC1M. We can start here though, where the lights are. So we're doing little dots just across the bottom here. So before we get into the rest of the details, let's write these letters. So I start with the C here, and then let's just drawing them the same width, just the same width. And we have a little word down here, so it's a little bit off center. You can see it's just below the C or below the H there. So, and we're just doing impression, the top one there like this. And now some details up here. So we actually have quite a few window sills that have white. We can add those in. So there you go, really enjoyed sketching that scene from Paris, fit it into this postcard. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, I've got the full version of this on Patreon with the reference and my template, so you can sketch along more easily with me, and you can add your sketch to the community chat and everyone shows their sketches there. Very warm and friendly group there. Also, within my fundamentals tutorials on Patreon, I've got an in-depth view on how to approach urban sketching. So that goes into all the perspectives and proportions and how you start off sketching in the different angles and how I recommend beginners start sketching. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.